1, 2, clear.
Great.
Get on 1, 2, clear. Clear on 1, 2, clear.
Get out. 1, 2, clear.
Yeah, and then you grind it. Yeah.
Just to share with everybody here, the video previously that you just seen is actually a digital ninja career immersion that Forest Interactive hosted 3 of our ninjas. And thank you so much. I think what you actually contribute to the digital ninja program is not only your time, but also the manpower that is, that was assigned to be mentor to the students. So I'm so sorry, ninjas, this year we can't do career immersion the same way that we did last year for obvious reasons. But I know having Johary, Nana, and also Sheena here is also, I think, the next best thing as well. So for Johary to share how he made what he did, how he is now in 14 countries. So I think let's put their curiosity at ease. So we give the floor to you, and we'll leave the questions until the end. The floor is yours, Johary.
Okay. All right. So I'll try and be quick. I think let's try and make it a bit more interactive. If anyone has any questions, just ask. These are just simple slides which I just prepared like an hour ago. So yeah, I hope you don't mind that being basic. So hi everyone, I'm Johary Mustapha, and yes, I'm a Malaysian. It seems that everyone I met for the first time, they don't believe I'm Malaysian. They ask me questions like, are you Malay? And I say, yeah. Okay, you speak bahasa? And say, boleh lah. Takkan tak boleh? And then they, oh, okay, sorry. But I think that's a compliment. I think what's important in the industry that we're in, tech, everyone has to be very good in speaking English, and that's how you represent the industry, especially with all this new terminology and technology, right? So I'm the CEO of Forest Interactive. I started the company about 14 years ago, and I'll go through about why I did it and where I came from. So I assume today's target for our presentation is Gen Z. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I think moving forward, what's important is you know where you stand in. I think some of us here, like from MDEC and Forest, we're in Gen Y or Gen X section. So it's a very big gap there, and a lot of people often ask this question about not understanding the younger generation. Why are they so impatient? Why are they so doing a lot of things? So what we do as a company, we try and understand them before we reach out to them. And I just want to share with you, when I was, I think in school, this was one of the most popular games that we had. I think the name today is a bit more popular than 10 years ago. This is by Tolkien, the creator of the Lord of the Rings. So back then, if I wanted to play a game, Lord of the Rings wasn't a movie. In fact, it was a board game. And if you can see on the right, those are some of the dice, special made dice, whether it's octagon, polygon, that's made for you to say toss for a turn and for you to conquer all these nations. So back then, when I was in primary school, and this was quite in the early days, this somehow added creativity into who I am today. So I began to imagine a lot of things. I began to read, just because I wanted to win this board game with some of my friends. Also, games back then. I was not as lucky as all of you are, and I wanted to be more imaginative, so I had to buy books, and these are actually role-playing books. It's a game book, so you read through it, and then after half a page, you decide whether you want to go left or right, and then if you go left, turn to page 48, and if you go right, turn to page 62. It's quite interesting. There are still some that's being sold online, so this was as close to a role-playing game that we had back then. And I wanted to share with you what I did when I was young. So pen pal was a big thing back then, right? Actually writing a letter. That's why pen and papers and pencils were very important. Collection of stamps. This was important as well, because every time you want to send a letter, you need a stamp. And so you have an access, you begin to collect that. And I'm not sure if any one of you students here know what this is. The picture on the bottom left, that is actually a favorite pastime. It's called kondak kondi. You go out, you see a big field, you dig a hole, you find 2 sticks, and voila, you have a very interesting game, right? And for those who can afford, then eventually it got into this item that you see on the top right. These are one of the first few generations of Atari 2600. If you look at the center, that's as how big the game cartridge is, and you kind of slot it in there, and you can play your game, whether it's Pac-Man or Space Invaders. So this is the big generation gap that we have now, based on the games that we played back then, and where are we today now, right? Now this is why I'm sharing this. I think this plays an important part of where I am today. So when I was young, my dad decided the best investment to give me was a 286 computer. Now the computer, you probably see some of this in really old buildings, or they just put it in the storeroom, right? And you can see there's this floppy disk. These are actually bigger floppy disks, and if you see one on the top, that's the more newer floppy disk. It's a bit smaller, and then you can see all these buttons on your PC, right? So back then, we call this an IBM PC compatible. Why? Because IBM came out with the first few PC, and if you notice, this is not an IBM PC. It's more of a compatible PC made in Japan, and that's why they call it IBM PC compatible. Of course, today you don't call it IBM PCs anymore, but all sorts of names. So, of course, some of you might be using the more advanced MacBooks. That seems to be an attraction these days. But this is how I started, right? And if you look at Intel processors or the history of processors, I love computers. Back then in the 1980s, I only had access to 80286, so this is where my computer fall under that category. And if you scroll through until the year 2000, you can see the big difference. So in 1980s, my computer speed was only 6 megahertz, and today, starting the year 2000, it's 1.5 gigahertz. So 1 gigahertz is actually 1000 megahertz, if you are not aware. So you'll probably be wondering, what could I do with my computer, right? As compared to now. So this is what I could do. This was one of the first few games that I can actually play. And this game was called Prince of Persia. And whenever I go to the shop, of course, it takes me about 5 or 6 visits for me to have the money or my pocket money allowance to buy this. And it actually came in 6 or 7 discs. I had to load it into my computer. So if you can see, ever since I was young, I love games. I wanted to have access to games, but I was not as lucky as all of you today, right? To get a game, I have to take a bus, go to the mall. It was called IMBI back then, and buy this game for about 60 ringgit. And 60 ringgit was quite expensive, considering those days curry puff was only 20 cents and nasi lemak was only 40 cents, right? Today, if you look at evolution of processors, now I started with the year 2000 from this slide, and it goes back up to i7 now. Probably some of you are using i5 or i7. That's the industry norm, and that's the big difference in terms of processing from back then to now, right? So for you to understand what the industry is about, it's always good to understand the history of it. And I'll just summarize it on the graph on the left. Now, I got my first internet access when I was in the year 1990, I think, 88 to 1990. I was young. When I got online, I got confused. Of course, on the top left, that's the search engine that you probably use these days. But back then, we had so much search engines, you know, it was just every day you were using something different. You were using Lycos. Yahoo was still relevant. It was a big directory. There was also a service called Ask Jeeves. You probably wonder who Jeeves was. So there was a lot of different selections of which search engine you want to use. Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Cikgu tolong mutekan mikrofon cikgu.
4 ringgit. Saya sini 50. Pergi sana makan tulis. Tak dengar.
Cikgu tolong mutekan mic. Okay, we're good. You're good, Joe.
Okay. All right. So moving ahead today, I think the only search engine you use is Google, right? How life is so easy as compared to back when I was starting up. Everything was such a lot of different choices that you have. So I don't know whether today is good that you only have one choice. But of course, we all use Bing and other search engine when you don't get what you want in Google. So of course, today Google tries and they're sort of the monopoly of the market, and you have all sorts of different Google on different occasions, different year, and I guess they try and simulate that Google changes over time as well. Now this was also an entertainment for me. I'm not sure if any of you from the younger generation have seen this. Probably you've seen it in your storeroom. Your dad must have kept it somewhere. So evolution of entertainment went from a VHS, and this loaded a 1.5-hour movie, and into a VCD, and eventually it went to DVD, and eventually it went online. And this was a 90s modem that I was using back then, 28.8. So 28.8 is nothing compared to, say, your average internet speed now, which is 10 Mbps. So that's 10,000 compared to 288. Yeah. So once I had modem back then that was the end of VHS and VCD. I went on Napster, Kazaa. Of course, today it's called Torrent. Of course, I don't encourage you to download that, but this was quite a popular service back then, today as well. And that's how entertainment was and gaming was for me. So a bit about myself. I graduated and I started working with TV7. This is still an existing TV station today. I went to work for a IT company called Logica CMG, and we were managing projects under HP and Compaq. And then I quit. Stress was too much, so I decided to be a dive master. Became a diver with Borneo Divers, and then after 1 year, decided to go back to the broadcasting industry again, and then decided to join one of the ministries before I set up the company. So I would say whatever you want to do in life, go for your passion and not just the money. I think last week I had a conversation with one of the person I interviewed, and they told me, "Oh, I'm in it for the money." And I can tell you, if you don't go for the passion, then I don't think you will reach wherever you want to go. So I was quite lucky back then. I used to work in Borneo Divers, and I used to stay here for about 5 months. This is Sipadan Island in off the coast of Sabah. Of course, today it's closed. But back then this is how it looked like. I also, become a beach bum. So you probably be surprised being a tech entrepreneur and having a history of becoming a beach bum and going to the beach every day. So what's the connection really, right? I showed you a picture of diving, a picture of sailing, and then there's a picture of this shop. So this was the first shop in Pulau Perhentian that I actually set up an internet cafe. And you can see the sign there on the right. It says internet station. And what's special about this Pulau Perhentian back then? This was Long Beach, very, very popular today. Back then, in 2002, when I say Long Beach or Perhentian Kecil, nobody would know where that was. And I set up a internet cafe here for about 10 PCs. And what's interesting was I set up a satellite dish right at the back of the shop. And because of the satellite dish, people wanted to come into the shop and use the internet cafe. And at the same time, this shop owner could actually sell all the convenient items that they have, from drinks to food. And so if you can see the connection of having a passion that I have towards the outdoors, at the same time figuring out how I can help this shop owner in terms of connectivity and telecommunication. Some of the activities that I learned as well, becoming a beach bum, selling burgers on the beach, at the same time delivering connectivity to some of these shop owners. So if you're wondering, hey, is Johary for real, being a beach bum, being a diver? I think I can relate. Most of you or all of you are quite young. So I'm a gamer. Right? I'm always proud to be a gamer. And today, even at the age of 42, I still play all these games that you see on your right. Right? Of course, today it's categorized as esports games. Right? You can actually go online and play with your friends. And back then, I had to go to a cyber cafe. And even that, the cyber cafe was only 2 Mbps. You can't do a online game. You can do a LAN game. And that's why it was popular back then. So I think you can relate to today playing all these esports games. So I was still a gamer back then. I'm still a gamer now. And that helps me shape how I want to be creative or innovative in this industry. So some talks about entrepreneurship. I started this company about 14 years ago. Don't ask me why. I still like working for people. I think it was just a challenge that I wanted to solve, and I started this company from back then. Today, I will still tell all of you, after you graduate, don't set up your own company. I'm not against startup, but I just feel you need to enlarge your horizon. Go out there, work, find experience. You'll find like-minded people, your colleagues, go through the whole process. Being in a startup or being an entrepreneur is a lonely path, right? My old friends don't want to talk to me when I first started the company because they didn't think it was interesting, right? So being an entrepreneur, it's not as easy as one might think. So I just want to share with you how my passion actually transformed into setting up this company. So I used to work in a TV station, and then a client came to me and said, "Hey, Johary, I want you to build this screen, interactive screen." And that's how I got together with an old friend, and I hired him, and then we developed this for NTV7. And if you notice there on the screen on the bottom right, you see these polyphonic tones, monophonic tones. Back then, ringtone was a very good business or service, very popular. And then chatting on TV was also popular. People would actually spend 50 cents just to send an SMS, just to chat on TV. So that's how I started the company. And of course, this was one of the challenges that we faced being on TV. Can you believe that we actually use Windows 95 for our platform? And I still remember quite a few times our CEO, I think Dr. Sazali back then, will call the IT room and or call us as a company and say, "Hey, what's wrong with the TV? You know, it's all blue screen." And can you imagine doing this blue screen on nationwide TV? So that was one of the challenges that we faced. What I can tell you about being an entrepreneur is you will definitely fail. You don't have to worry about that. You know, you're probably wondering, hey, am I going to fail? Yes, you will definitely fail. And you're going to fail many, many times, right? But it's how you find that solution and how that gives you more strength will define how you differentiate yourself as an entrepreneur. Now, I also want to share with you this word, which I think is very, very important, grit, right? As I grew as an entrepreneur, you know, I didn't know, what was this? Was this patience? Was this, you know, being brave, you know, knocking on people's door, trying to find business? Some people tell me like, "Hey, Joe, you have the nerve, you know, we rejected you and you still come back here, but it's fine. We want to give you that business." So all this combination of being an entrepreneur is best summed up with grit, G-R-I-T, not the other grit, which is G-R-E-E-D. So if any of you wants to be an entrepreneur, try and Google this meaning. There's also a video by Angela Duckworth. I think her video about 15 minutes. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. But this video best describes about the meaning of grit and why you want to be an entrepreneur, why you should be an entrepreneur, whether you possess grit or not. So if you're free, just look this up. Now, why I started the company back then. When I was in school, so this is on the left, Motorola, this is what we call a pager. It was only a 15, we call it numeric pager, and then that transformed into a alphanumeric pager. So you can actually see alphabets there on your Apollo pager on the middle. And on the right, you will see this was actually one of the first digital phones back in 2000. So this was my phone, I think one of my first few phones. And that is how the industry has evolved. So I was always interested to do more, but I can't, because if you have a pager, it says how much you can load there. It's not that you can actually load a game there, right? So here you have an entrepreneur like me. I like playing games, but I can't load games on those phones. So I had a feeling somehow that, you know, it was going to evolve. And it did evolve. So as the years go by, you can see from the left, this was the old industrial phone, and it evolves into your 3210. And so as you grow younger, you start to go and use the phones on the right. If you're the older generation, you start using phones on the left. And as you can see, it actually evolved from a keypad phone to now a touchscreen phone, right? So with kids these days, if I give them a keypad phone, they probably look at me and say, "What do you want me to do with this? What's the button for?" Right? And I had a belief that these mobile devices will change. And today it has tremendously changed our lives. And from what I like on games, it has evolved into the mobile. And this is how we have a service as a company. Mostly it's to complement the mobile devices. So, so we grew as a company. It started off with just 10 people, eventually reaching 30, and then finding out, are you going to be happy with having a company with 30 people, right? So I wasn't, and I decided, I found out that if we don't have a diverse team, then there's not much we can do. There's not much respect we can gain. So what happened was, within the next few years, we grew to today about 180 plus people. I can't keep track about the nationalities, but last, I think, what I got from Nana, it was about 28 or 29 different nationalities. So these people that you see here in the picture, they're most of them are gamers. They're creative people, and they help in understanding what we can fit in that mobile phone and how we can deliver that as a service. And I've managed to change that perception to because where we are at now, whether you are, or back then when I was 12 or 17 or 23, it was always what I can do. But moving ahead to the next step is we. Right? So I believe for you to be a good entrepreneur, you have to move your perception from mentioning yourself as I to we. So when you've actually own we, it's always about we, what we can do, what we can aspire, or what we can become, no longer I, right? So yeah, I just slid in a picture of our corporate PR team. And so I had this idea back then that it was, we need corporate PR because we need to do a proper storytelling. If I can't tell the story, then I wouldn't get MDEC to notice. And if I wouldn't get MDEC to notice, then we won't have this conversation today. And that is corporate PR 2 years back, I think. I believe that I should be translated to we because we could tell a better story together. And that's part of the journey to be an entrepreneur. And as a company, I think we have a bullish objective. Some people ask me, hey, Johary, what on earth are you doing in Kazakhstan? Like, we never even heard of that place. So I went to Kazakhstan, I think last year. I found out that Malaysian Ministry of Trade was there. I liked the city. Almaty was beautiful, and decided, okay, let's just hire someone here and try and discover the market. And I, as an entrepreneur, if you see from the earlier slides, I like to travel. I'm an active person that goes out. And probably I got bored in Malaysia, and people were always telling me, expand your horizons, go out there, discover the world. And this is what I'm trying to do. A lot of people tell me they like to travel. Yes, who doesn't, right? But then when you travel, you start counting your money that you bring. And I discovered that while you travel, money was always a challenge for what you can discover. So I like to backpack, and that's probably part of me that helped me discover some of these countries. And I can tell you, it is a dream to be able to go out to these countries, discover it as a backpacker or as an entrepreneur, and then from there, try and see how our culture can fit us being in those countries. And it's a really big and interesting challenge for us. And in countries like Peru, people didn't even know where we were in the map. And it's always great to have this great feeling of being a Malaysian and expanding to those countries, replicating your service. And so I want to share also this saying, this proverb by Robert Frost, "The road not taken." Probably some of you have heard about it, but this is a very popular, how do you call it, proverb that's always used. So road not taken, for me, I apply it in my life. If you Google it up, which I assume you will be doing after this presentation, don't get confused. The first page that you see, you probably won't be able to differentiate which one is the road less taken, right? So you can see from the creative, the roads are similar. So which one is the road less taken? So for me, I mean, people always say, always take the road less taken. But how are we going to take it if we don't know how to differentiate? So this is probably one of the better contexts of a road less taken. Like,
Hello, Johary,
crazy.
we lost you.
Yeah.
Hello, sorry,
Okay.
sorry, Johary. That was a bit choppy. Okay, we got you.
Okay. Did you? Where were we last? Yeah.
I think it was just the two roads.
Okay.
The one person on the other road. Yeah.
Okay. So this this applies much to my path as an entrepreneur. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you do ever decide to take that path, it's going to be a very lonely road, very rough road. It's not going to be easy. So please understand before you take that decision. Do a lot of research. And if I can say, follow your passion. What do you want to do? For me, I'm a gamer. I like games, and this is why one of the reasons we publish games and we make that part of our service. So this is part of our team. We've grown, and every country will have a different office, different marketing manager, and diversity is what it falls under. And I believe to be a good entrepreneur or to differentiate yourself, you must have a big team, a team that understands what you want in life. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, let's give him a round of applause.
Hey, Sheena. Okay, guys, we have Miss Sheena here.
I'm the loud one in the office, even virtually.
Which is
Good
good.
thing
I
Joe.
think loud is
Good thing Joe is cool about it.
okay. I think Carter, are you ready with? I think you're ready with the question, right, Carter?
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So my question to you is, what is your opinion on the future of mobile esports and like the students the impact on the students in the future, since it's more accessible in the future also?
Okay, so indeed it's good that you noticed the partnership with Moontoon was something that we were chasing for 2 years. So it's not easy, yeah. Coming from a small country like Malaysia, going to China, and they're looking at you and say, how many people is in your country? 31 million? Like, oh, that's nothing. Like, so and when you look at the esports gaming, we promote healthy gaming. So we get a lot of calls from parents who say, hey, is gaming good or bad? We tell them it's good, but make sure that you only allocate certain hours of the day, because if you overplay, then it becomes negative. So to share with you a bit about the esports, that's a new name, right? Actually, it's the same. It's just games. We call it online games. Today they call it esports because there's online tournaments. We're seeing a lot of interest, especially from brands, companies. They look at this as the new tech. You have professional esports players being paid somewhere from 3,000 ringgit to 20,000 ringgit a month, right? But my advice is you have to be, you have to really know what you're capable of. If you're good in games, then you can try playing games and then see whether you can qualify. If you're not good in games, don't waste your time. Just play like myself, just a casual gamer. Right? If you want to make it a career, find what you're good at. Playing games doesn't mean that it's a good career. You have to expand your career. Like for me, I took up graphic design. I took up networking. And so as you can see, creative design, networking are all key components of making a very successful game. So once you understand all that, then probably you will be at a stage where, hey, perhaps I would develop my own game, or perhaps my goal is to work for a company like Moontoon, because in China, that's where the action is, right? So those are some of the things that I've learned. But to answer your question, esports is the in thing now. It's the sexy thing. Everyone's looking at that. So if you follow that, try and be close with it, read news articles about it, and position yourself very close to all these big publishers. Yeah.
I see. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Carter, for that question. Right, next question is actually from Adam. Tapi Adam, dia punya connection tak berapa kuat, so his mic is tak boleh nak ni. So I'll ask the question for him. Okay, Joe, do you think the technologies like in the Iron Man movie is possible for us to achieve in the future?
For me, when I was younger, it was always Superman, right? Iron Man was not so interesting because it was only in the comics. I read comics, and from comics comes the idea. And voila, today we have that in Hollywood, in Marvel, comics becoming a reality. So I think the idea of technology, in the definition of Tony Stark, and all these advancements, it's a good dream to have, but of course, how far are we from reality? I can say when you talk about augmented reality, virtual reality, or some of the things that you see in Iron Man, it's actually there. It's just that as an industry, as a country, or as a population, we still haven't got those technologies to be affordable. So I think it will be there. But of course, flying cars, that would probably take another 10 years or so. And that's when I think flying, there's already some boosters that you put on your leg. That's already there. It only lasts probably about 5 to 10 minutes. Possibly, perhaps, the next 10 years, that will last probably about 4 or 5 hours. Yeah. So we're quite close. It's just how do we apply this in our daily life? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joe, for the question. Okay, next question is coming from a teacher. His name is Cikgu Muhammad Effendi. He's from SMK from Johor Bahru. Silakan.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Soalan saya, kebanyakan syarikat yang telah kami lawati pada tahun lepas sebagai Duta Kaunselor Kerjaya Digital, kebanyakan syarikat ni beritahu permainan video ni dia banyak diseru dedahkan kepada pelajar lah. Tapi pada pandangan Cik Johary, apakah kepentingan permainan video ini kepada industri lebih-lebih lagi dalam bidang teknologi selain daripada minat mereka dalam bidang IT?
Jadi dari pendedahan kepada video games, we call it in English. Okay, kalau saya beritahu dalam bahasa Inggeris tak apa.
Tak apa.
Rasa dia ada pro and cons untuk video game ni. Anything which is too much itu tak bagus ya, it's not healthy. Whether it's video game, whether it's food, atau whether it's exercise, same thing. So cuma video games ni dia banyak dari segi visual. Agaknya from the old school mindset, tengok TV lama, kayaknya tak sihat. Itu daripada zaman ibu bapa saya lah. Tapi from the Gen Y, Gen X, we can see that video game is there. And what I, as an entrepreneur, saya nak ceritakan kisah saya main video game daripada muda ni. Banyak membantu pertumbuhan minda saya ni. How I solve complex calculation. Kalau saya tengok algebra or math, saya tak suka. Tapi bila dia dalam you gamify it in the game, bertambah interesting. So I think game is good, tapi janganlah game asyik game arcade aja, tembak-tembak, violent ni. Have a balance. Even game macam Candy Crush tu, those are good games yang stimulate the calculative way of how your brain works. So puzzle games ataupun game casual, try to mix this game. Kadang-kadang boring nak main satu hari setengah jam, kadang-kadang dalam taxi atau dalam bus. Have a game which is online. There's one game, arcade game, Subway Surfer. Nampak arcade tapi you kena mengelak barriers, cones. So those games does help your mind to be very active. And if you are active, maknanya tak adalah duduk, relax, tak buat apa. Then for me, apa yang saya telah lalui, bila saya aktif, saya nak buat benda cepat. Saya nak buat cepat, saya nak main game tu, saya nak habis level tu, saya nak cari game lain. Dan minda saya ni bergerak je. That's why even though I'm a bit older, 42, my mind ni masih macam budak-budak lagi. Nak main lagi game, nak apa lagi, apa boleh buat lagi. So I think that's my definition of gaming, but always have it berpada-pada lah, healthy gaming.
Okay, terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Okay, next question I'm going to ask on behalf of Jocelyn. Jocelyn, yeah, connection tak berapa kuat. It's not so the connection's choppy. So the question from Jocelyn is, what inspires you to come up with Alpha A2P?
Oh, okay. That's an interesting question. For us as a company, we started out with SMS. So Alpha A2P is actually a messaging, the next gen messaging platform. So we're coming up with something which is not new, but yet we are innovating it, right? So we're very good in messaging, we're good in telecommunication. Our core business, our core specialty. And a lot of advice I got from very successful people was focus on what you do best. Focus on what you're an expert in. So that's what we did. We went back to the drawing board, and then we tell ourselves, hey, we can improve our platform better. And that's why we spent about a year just to develop Alpha A2P, so that we can reintroduce this back into the industry. And when the industry looks at us and say, hey, you have been doing mobile and telecommunication and you have a new product, it looks nice, it looks cool, it looks new, fancy. And this is why one of the reasons we decide to develop Alpha A2P. And in fact, we're launching that, I think, next month. Right, Sheena? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Johary, for that question. And we have up next Digital Ninja Irfan. Irfan, you ready?
Hello, yes, I'm ready. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, okay. Hello. All right, hold on. All right, so my question is, you have a lot of like products in the market. Like, how do you make your products stand out like in a crowded market? Like, for example, maybe your like wallet codes and things like that.
Good question. Yes, we do have a lot of product ever since we started the company. I think over a dozen products, right? We're geographically, we're not in a very good position being in Southeast Asia, right? I'm not saying anything bad being in Malaysia, but you know, guys, you guys love products from Silicon Valley, right? Everything is, if it's not Silicon Valley or it's not sexy, right? You want to use Dropbox or Office 365 or all these software as a service product. So what we learned is this: we were quite torn, you know. We wanted to use the technology of the West, but then if we did that, then the Malaysian government or even MDEC wouldn't acknowledge us, because then we'll just be a reseller, right? Taking in a technology from the US or Europe and then selling it here doesn't make you a entrepreneur or technology savvy. It makes you a reseller or salesman. Okay, so what we discovered was we had to develop our own, and developing your own product is super difficult. Yeah, I'm not saying you should not, but it is super difficult. I mean, if you even have a good product, you want to sell it to a company in Malaysia, they will say, oh, Malaysian company, are you sure? You know, are you sure you develop it here? Now, I'm just being really realistic. But in fact, we did, and many Malaysian or MSC companies did develop their own products. And how do you differentiate ours? It's a good question. We are still learning. We make a lot of mistakes for the past few years, a lot of costly mistakes, because in order for you to learn, you need to spend a lot of money to learn about the more expensive mistakes, right? And from there, we innovate as a team and we innovate as a product. You mentioned a product called Wallet Codes. That's one of the only B2C product that we have. And a B2C product is extremely difficult. I'll just give an example of a wallet service, right? You probably been using Touch and Go, Boost, or some of the lesser known ones. There's actually more than 21 of them in the market. And there was I think 11th Street before. Today they changed to Presto, and nobody knows about Presto. And you can see that not nobody, but some of them still don't know. Right? You can see that the market is really volatile and is so difficult to penetrate. So I wouldn't call those behind Presto not good, because I know them personally. I think they're really great. It's just that today it has evolved into a more disruptive economy, right? Businesses like Grab and Uber, they're giving you this perception that in order for you to be successful, you have to be disruptive, okay? But how do you understand a business like Uber? They are disruptive, but at what expense? So you can see that they got listed in NASDAQ, but yet they have 9.6 billion of debt. So would you buy their stock, right? Speaking from a investor perspective, or would you buy a stock that a company that has no debt at all and making profits, right? So I think answering back to your question, we don't have that answer about whether we can be the market leader. But I think with the big talented team that we have, about 180 people collectively, they've been contributing to all these ideas, A/B testing that we have. And together as a team, I think it's easier for us to achieve that direction of becoming a more scalable product. Yeah.
If I may add to Joe's answer to that, apart from being physically open in 14 countries, so meaning we have offices in 14 countries, we are also servicing 30 plus countries, meaning we don't have an office there, but all our operations in the headquarters here in Kuala Lumpur are happening. So we support the mobile operators and the mobile subscribers of those 30 plus countries as well.
Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you, Johary.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Johary and Ms. Sheena. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Johary. Okay, next in line to ask a question to you is Tayalan. T, are you ready?
Hello, are you guys can hear me?
Can hear, Tayalan.
All right. Good afternoon, Mr. Johary.
Afternoon.
So my question is, like, currently in Malaysia, most of the teenagers are playing mobile games such as Mobile Legends and PUBG, but their parents are not concerned about it. So is there something you want to tell to the parents who are not ready to accept their child's future as a gamer or game creator?
Okay. Can you ask? Oh, parental advice.
How to say
okay, that's yeah. To be realistic with you, to be frank with you, right? For me to solve that will mean I need to come to your house and talk to your parents, right? Okay, and of course that's not realistic. Of course, I still remember when I did some radio talk shows, and then I get a lot of worried parents calling the radio station and they're asking me about, hey, isn't it dangerous? You know, they don't even take their bath, they don't eat their breakfast, they just go open their computer and play their games. So I think this subject is very broad. Of course, it depends on why your parents detest you from playing games, and for you to not use it as a reason, like, hey, this is my future, because Johary said this is the future. So, Pa, you got to trust me because this entrepreneur is saying that, right? I think you should go way past that. There's nothing you can do to convince your parents that gaming is the way to go. All right. And I think my advice is don't even try to debate with them. Don't waste your time. Okay. They're your parents. If they say it's bad, just smile and say, okay, pa. Okay, ma. All right. You have your time with your friends, or your colleagues in the company. Make full use of it. Trying to convince your parents is not a battle you can win anytime soon. Of course, if you have younger parents, then that's fine. Like for me, I play Mobile Legends with my son, and my bonding time with my 11-year-old son is at night at 8 p.m. He always comes to me, snuggle next to me, and say, "Daddy, can we play Mobile Legends now?" And so I combine work and some quality time, right? So if they don't play games, don't waste your time to explain to them why it's important. But it matters. I think my advice for you is, if you really like games, I wouldn't recommend you to develop your own game at a young age. Look for a good game company. Go and work for them. Ask MDEC. MDEC have a lot of lists of really good game companies, and you work with them, and they pay you quite well. And your parents can only see how much you're earning when you do that. And when you're earning good, right? Then only they will start to say, "Oh, wow, you work for games, wow, very good lah." And then they'll be proud of you. They'll be talking to all your aunties, all their friends, saying, "Oh, my son, he works for this gaming company, oh, really good. And all these gaming hours those days has paid off." So that's my advice.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johary. Thank you for that advice.
Okay, Johary did not want to get in trouble with your mom. Okay, T. I know you're trying to find reasons. So like, Ma, you see, Mr. Johary got 13 presents in 14, 15 countries. He must be saying something right. So don't use that, because lepas ni tak masuk Digital Ninja program pula.
Actually, my parents are not ready to accept any job that starts with the name game. That's the problem.
Of course.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But I think recapping on what Johary was mentioning, don't build a game yet, because you need to build your experience base, your acumen in, like there's so many things that entails in game development, right, Johary? There's design, there's back end. So you need to expose yourself to the genre of game development, whatever it is that goes into that pot. Learn first, gain the experience. Then only if you want to create something, then I think you can still continue playing game, but of course homework okay, and then your results I think will justify whether you are playing sampai pukul berapa dan tak tidur dan tak mandi, then that's why your parents are risau lah. But yeah, okay, thanks for that, Johary. Dodge bullet.
Just one thing I want to add quickly. If you're interested in game, that's one of the go-to industries now that you want to do. Why? If you look at this recent epidemic of coronavirus, right? So you hear people losing their jobs, unpaid, and so forth, right? If I'm not mistaken, and MDEC can correct me on this, none of the game companies have actually put their staff on unpaid leave. Why? Because these people can work from home, and you can work from home, meaning your job is more secure, right? So whatever epidemic that comes, I mean, if you're in a hotel, they have to lay you off. But when you're on the cloud, like gaming is on the cloud, you're less, there's more security there. So I think it's a good industry for you to go in.
Yeah. When they kata, the short thing would be where your laptop is, that's your office, right, Joe?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, next question is from Adam. Adam, you ready?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say sorry I couldn't ask my first question because my connection is really bad. Hello.
Hello. Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So my question is, how do you expand your company not just in Malaysia but worldwide? Do you have connection with people from around the world or just out?
Okay, is that question related to how do you expand, how do you go to new countries without knowing anyone, without no connection? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, good question. So if you notice in one of the slides, there's this word called GRIT, grid. When I wanted to expand to Philippines, I knew no one from Philippines, right? About 7 years ago, I think 8 years ago, I went to Manila. And wow, was I schooled properly about how things were in Manila, right? And I didn't know anyone. I did 10 meetings. I came back to Malaysia, and none of those 10 people responded to my email. Okay, so you're probably wondering, or probably I know someone there, and I have a partner, and it makes it easier. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough. I came back to Manila about 6 years after with this great determination, revisited these 10 contacts again. They're still there. And of course, 2 of them replied. I went straight to the mobile operator. I said, I want to do this business and I'm willing to hire people. And because I have a good product, and they saw that, okay, there's a demand, we're your demand, and you're the supply, and let's try and make things work, right? And that's how we got out. It's not the same as in, say, 10 or 20 years ago, where you need to find a business partner. You know, you need to go to this convention and then have a good attachment to a partner and then rely on a partner. Today, it's borderless, and the sky is your limit. You can go to any country, and in this case, if you're quite worried about that, this is why in the tech industry we have MDEC. So MDEC helps with we call it immersions, yeah. And I think they've done a few, like more than 10 countries with us as well, and that helps them. I mean, they help us by matching with like-minded people. So, for example, I go to Philippines, right? And then MDEC says, hey, we actually have Matrade there. You can actually go and see them. And then Matrade can give you some quick courses on how the market is in Philippines. And then they also introduce us to entrepreneurs in Philippines who are Malaysians, right? So in today's world, 2020, it's so easy for you to go anywhere in the world and get support on that. So we're in Kazakhstan. Can you imagine? Kazakhstan, like nobody goes there, right? But yet Matrade is there. And then when we went to the office, they say, oh, it's good to see you, Malaysian. Welcome. Let's go out for lunch. And they share with us all the stories about how you're going to be successful in those markets. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have all the assistance you can get, especially this year onwards.
Okay.
If I may add to that one,
All right, thank you.
it also takes a lot of work. Like, for example, the company alone last year, we attended 38 conferences and we exhibited all over the world for 13 exhibitions. So that alone is actually, a true proof that with commitment and hard work, you will really get what you want. So that's one way. And then you connect them with LinkedIn. So you have to make sure that you take care of that connection. You build maybe a strong foundation with them so that there's a mutual benefit between both parties. And then it's going to be super easy to go to their country.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Sheena, for adding that in. And I keep listening to Johary saying, who goes to Kazakhstan? Who goes there? So if you notice what Johary was sharing earlier, the 2 paths, one yang ramai sangat, there's so many people on that path, and everybody's going there. So he's taking the path less taken. So that's literally it. And like he mentioned, Matrade is happy to share with him whatever that country has to offer. So I think if you're brave enough, then you seek out, you find out. Okay, right. Next question is your connection okay, Tines?
Yes, Nadia. Miss Nadia, I am good.
Okay, good. Tines, you go.
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Joe.
Afternoon.
Okay, sir. The question I would ask to you is, something that you would love because it's about gaming, would you prefer playing games or developing games? And answer me, why do you choose this one?
Okay. Oh, good question. I love playing games. You see that in my slides. Bad thing about me is if I play a game, I have to finish it. So that takes a lot of my time. And so I like playing games, and then I realized I couldn't draw well. So I couldn't draw well, so I can't design well. Then that means I have to find a good designer. So over the course of the company growing, we tried to develop our own games, right? And we realized that you need to have at least 5 or more people to have a good team to develop games. Then we realized that we're too late in the market, right? There's about close to 1 million apps on the App Store, and your games will probably be one of those that people will never look at or download. So we realized that developing games is really difficult, right? But yet we still have a lot of people in Malaysia, a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially under MDEC, they have a lot of these grants and programs to develop entrepreneurs to develop games. Okay, so I decided that it was going to be very tough for us to develop games. So what we do now is we publish games. And so I realized that the talent that we had in our company, they're very good at marketing. And for us, what we do is we introduce these games in new markets. So we try and perfect that process. And today, and this is how we've grown, we help entrepreneurs or game studios, indie gamers, right, publish the games. But statistically, it's very difficult. You'll probably be the 0.01 chance factor that you could probably develop again. But of course, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm saying if you really want to do it, make sure that you have the knowledge. Like I gave an advice earlier, go and work for a really good game company. And then from there, you know how to benchmark yourself, whether you are there at par, international level, or whether you're just some kid that has an idea and thinks your idea is the best of the world idea, but it's actually not. So for us, we had to pick a path, and it's how do we market these games overseas? Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, next question, Anis. Are you back online, dear?
Yeah, I'm back online. I'm so sorry. Suddenly there's a bad connection. Hi, Mr. Johary. I'm Anis. My question is regarding about how the diversity in your company, right? Say that your company has a lot of diversity. Like, how do you handle your employee who comes from a lot of countries in one office? And is there any bad experience regarding to that? Because some of us Malaysians, right? Sometimes we don't cope with our Indians and Chinese, but how do you manage to even more larger diversity than we are average Malaysian?
Oh, wow, interesting question. Okay, I hope I can relate. So we're quite lucky. We come from a country where there's 3 main ethnicity, and there's another 4 or 5, etc., etc. We learn how to cope up with each other, right? I'm quite lucky. I come from a private school, so most of my classmates were Chinese. 22 people in the class, 3 Malays, 2 Indians, and the rest were Chinese. So I learned about tolerance, about how do you respect people regardless of what's their skin color or where they come from, right? Whether they wear a tudung, whether they don't, or whether they work, somewhere in the private sector or the public sector. So I think it's all about your tolerance. Now, for me to be very tolerant, you need to surround yourself with very difficult people. Okay, and that's why there's a saying, you have to step out of your comfort zone. Okay, so for us, because we are in tech, so tech there's only one language that we speak. It's English. Okay. Because we talk about big data. What's the bahasa word for big data? Can you recall? Okay. At the same time, I'm not saying that my own bahasa is bad. Yeah. Saya ni orang Melayu juga. Boleh cakap bahasa. But I think gone are the days when you speak bahasa and then you speak English and then your friend says, action lah. Apa cakap orang putih ni? Kan? Cuma cakap orang Melayu sikit, orang Malaysia. Okay. That existed when I was 13 years old, back in the early 90s. Today that doesn't exist anymore. So we had to choose English because English is tech. Tech is in English. You don't know English, you can't go well much with tech, right? And so when we had, a bunch of locals, and so we saw that there was not much sharing. Okay, because everyone knows if you're a Malaysian, you know everything. You know the mama shop, you know where's the mall, you know what's this culture, how is it like to be in Cameron Highland or in Pulau Tioman, right? But when we got people, we had a lot of people from overseas, and then we start to think, why do they want to work in Malaysia? What's up Malaysia, right? Then we understood, like, apparently MDEC is doing, or not just singling out MDEC here, MITI or MIDA, and they're doing quite a good job promoting Malaysia as a tech destination, right? So we get a lot of people from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, even Indonesia. They start coming here, they start taking up course, degrees, and then after that, they're here, and so we pick them up. And the only thing they want to learn is English because, for example, my Indonesian colleagues, when they go back to Indonesia, nobody speaks English there. Everyone speaks Indonesian. So, of course, we surround ourselves with all these different ethnicity, all this different culture. So I get the bonus of it, which is I get to learn about all these other cultures without setting foot in those countries. And so I think what's important as a person is, how do you tolerate other people? How do you tolerate their idea, right? And that broadens your horizon of being very understanding. And so, the silo and being, single-minded and being very broad-minded. At a young age, I think we all have to really open up our mindset, like accept everything there is. Of course, stick to your belief, your religion, but at the same time, allow other people to share with you instead of rejecting this notion of sharing or idea. So, that's my advice.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johary.
Okay, okay. Before we go into students' questions, can I also ask another question? What does forest stand for, and why do you use the word forest? Could it be that you like to explore and, I'm just thinking that Amazon forest, there's so many things that's untouched in there, so that comes to mind. Why the name forest?
Interesting question, especially from MDEC. So when we started the company, it was what we call during the .com bubble, and then the .com bust, right? That means there were a lot of tech companies out there, and in Malaysia, you see a lot of names like probably something called Vector Dynamic, Mobile 9, all these very tech fancy names, right? I look at technology as being very broad, very holistic, and so the only thing I can think about was a forest, right? What's interesting about a forest is that you actually understand the entire ecosystem. Not just that one particular tree, one particular stream, or that particular animal that lives in that section, but understanding the entire mobile or tech ecosystem. So I look at tech as a big forest, right? There's so many new things. It's so broad, right? How do you map it out? And as a company, because we want to have the perspective of seeing the technology, seeing the business from the ecosystem point of view, rather than just be providing a service. and not be aware of where it will lead to, say, in the next 10 years to come. So I think the name forest is something that is personally attached to myself, and then I like the color green anyway, and the forests are green, and there's just so much meanings to that helps me perceive the business as to name it forest. Yeah, that's why.
Thank you, Johary. So, right. Okay, I think we've come to the end of all the Q&As. I want to pass the floor to Sheena.
Right. Okay. So thanks, Joe, for all the good things that you shared and the advice. And Digital Ninjas, like last year, we really enjoyed the time that we spent with MDEC and with the Digital Ninjas. It's just unfortunate that this year we're not able to see each other. And you guys could have joined our running club, painting club, board game club, all our free lunch every day. There's a lot of fun things being in a tech company. So I hope you consider working for a tech company as you grow older, like how old I am now. Don't guess my age. Okay, so we wanted you guys to have a taste of one of our products. So we're gonna send out in your emails. We're gonna get it from Nadia and Azura. We're gonna give you a taste of wallet codes, some P points. So it's called loyalty points, which you can use to purchase gaming vouchers. You'll find the instructions in your email after this one. Nana, where are you? Are you here? Nana is from Indonesia, yes, by the way. Okay, so she will be the one to spearhead that one. We're gonna show you one last video. It's one of the things that we're very proud of. It's really big thanks to MDEC for giving us the opportunity to be part of how they are changing the digital economy of Malaysia. So if we can play the video now, that would be great.
Honestly, what we do and what we want out of this is to empower students, teachers. It's to tell them that there is career opportunities that they can pursue tertiary education in game development.
It's a wonderful program given my students the opportunity to learn about game development.
I guess by the time that you finish your high school, you can already develop games. But never think that it's too big to become a game developer.
That was when I ruled the world.